All right, so we're going to do this a little bit different than the notes or than the slides here. So there's a few ways that I can look at these variation problems. So when things vary each other, that means one thing affects the other. So they either directly affect it, or they inversely affect it, or they could jointly directly affect it, or combined inverse and direct. So we're going to see a lot of those type of words: inverse, direct, joint. And so when I think of direct, this is linear. When I'm looking at it, so it's going to have a direct rate of change. One's directly affected. And so we can do these two ways. We can find the constant of variation, or direct also is proportional. So if you remember proportions we did a lot in geometry and algebra 1, you did those. Direct is proportional, so joint would be two things would be directly affected. And we see this a lot with statistics when we're looking at it. So here's one way to look at it. Y varies directly as x. Since this varies by rate, so 3 here is your constant, then if this varies directly, then this is, once we figure out our constant, that's our rate of change, then we can write a linear equation. The other thing is that since it varies directly, it's proportional. So a lot of people would rather look at it as a proportion. So if y varies directly as x, then y1 over x will equal any other y that varies the same way over x. So then this would be a cross multiplying. So direct variation is proportional. So you can look at it either way. I'm going to show you on this first one how to do it. Finding the k, the constant of variation, or the rate of change. And then remember, rate of change is the change in y over x, which is what we're seeing here. And then I will look at it the other way too, as a proportion. So y varies directly as x. So y equals k times x. So when y is negative 15, then x is 5. So we want to find this rate, or this constant of variation. So divide by 5, and I get negative 3 equals k. So negative 3 equals k. So this is my equation that I could use for this direct variation, for anything that varies this way. So y equals negative 3x. So if I want to find y when x is 3, I would plug in 3 for this into this equation. Negative 3 times 3, y equals negative 9. Also, like I said, this is one way you can do it. You don't have to do both. Second way would be to set it up directly. It means it's proportional. So when I see that word direct, I know it's proportional. So y1 over x1 will equal y2, second y over x2, and so forth. Or anything, it doesn't have to be y and x. So negative 15 over 5 will equal y over 3. Cross multiply, 5y equals negative 45, and then divide by 5. So you can use either method to solve. I like the proportion method, so it tends to be where because I don't so much like to memorize formulas. So if I understand what proportional is, and that directly is proportional, then that's how I use that. So try this one, and you should get negative 28. Some things can be joint, so same thing where it varies jointly. That means that two things are affected with that constant rate of change. So this is the equation for it. Y equals your constant times the two things that are varied jointly. So when it says varied jointly, they're both proportional. If I looked at it as a proportion, then y varies jointly with x1 and z1 will equal your second y over x2 z2, or any letters. The joint variation are both of the x and z are proportional with y. So if I wanted to find my constant, y equals constant x times z, again, both methods here. We're going to find y in this situation when we had this situation. So this is everything. So I'm going to use that one to find my k. And oops, y was 12 when x was 3 and 8, z was 8. So I have 12 equals 24k divided by 24. So I can find that constant. So I have that equation. So k, excuse me, equals 0.5. So my equation then is y equals 0.5 times xz, and this gives me an equation for any situation. So I'm going to plug 10 and 5 in there. Y equals 0.5 times 10 times 5, which should give me 25. But again, since it's direct and joint, then I could look at it as y over 10 times 5, because these are both directly related, they're just separate, will equal this y, 12 over 3 times 8. Again, different method, your choice. So y over 50 equals 12 over 24, and then cross multiply. 24 equals 12 times 50. So I have 24y, equals 600, 12 times 50, and then divide by 24. Y equals 25. So either method, again, I think that it makes sense to do that this way, but again, you can do this and find your constant and then write your equation and then just plug in what they give you. So try this one, you should get 3/5. Inverse then would be opposite. So notice before we were multiplying to find k, finding that rate of change, y equaled k times x, and on our proportions we were dividing. So if inverse is opposite, so we're going to do the opposite operation. So if we were looking for k, we're going to divide, because before we multiplied, and if we're looking for, if we do it with proportions, it wouldn't be dividing, it'd be multiplying. So it'd be y1 x1 will equal y2 x2. So before we divided, then we multiply for inverse in this method. So what r varies inversely as t, so r times t will equal any other r times t. So if r is -6 and t is 2, then r times -7 will equal that. So -12 equals -7r, and divide by -7. R equals -12 over -7. So here they vary inversely, so we're going to multiply. So a times b equals a times b. So 3 times 8 should equal a times 6. 24 equals 6a, and then divide by 6. A equals 4. All right, I'm going to go through this one. You can look at the PowerPoint to see it. It's the same thing as an inverse relationship, just using 1 as the diameter that it appears here compared to the diameter it appears there on Venus. All right, so some things can vary directly and inversely. So this is where I think the proportion works. So remember, if it was directly, we divided. If it was inversely, we multiplied. So F varies directly, so F is divided by the D. F varies directly as G, so F is divided by the G, and it varies inversely with H, and it's multiplied to the H. So I'd have 6 times -5 over 18 will equal F5 times H, 3 over, and we're looking for, I'm going to set that wrong, sorry, the button. We want to find G, when f is 6, h is -5. If when f was 5, h was 3, and g was 18. So then I have -30 over g equals 15 over 18. Cross multiply, so -540 equals 15g, and then divide by 15. This one's not on your notes, but I'd write it down because there is some like it on the worksheet. All right, that's everything. For the first 4 questions on the worksheet, look back over at the boxes of your notes. That's just kind of a helpful hint.